So, Concord has been having the worst time of its life. It launched at a £35 price tag. It thought it could go into a free to play market with a paid product without offering anything new, substantial, or anything that makes it stand out. The dialogue is pretty awful. The characters look just wrong. They're just a cheap imitation of Guardians of the Galaxy, and if not, maybe even worse than that. People are often referring to it, as well as I am, as the Temu of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Fisher Price versions of the Guardians of the Galaxy. It's pretty awful with the way it looks, and honestly, there's so much more that could have gone right here. And even if we take the aesthetics, just to one side, you've got the gameplay. Now, in terms of gunplay, the game plays extremely well. It's made by the same team that did Crucible, so I don't expect that to be any worse, right? I expect it to be great. And you got people like Josh Hamrick and John Wisniewski who are working on this, so I expect a level of standard, and it's kind of there. But what isn't there is the unbalancing. And when you've got a PvP game that is even more unbalanced than Destiny is, then you have a severe problem there. Sniper rifles not one-shotting is a massive problem. You get a headshot, you aim, you get that dome, you're expecting a one-shot, one kill, right? And especially, the reload on the damn thing is so long. If it's not killing, you're going to die straight after the moment they look at you. So, where is the balance here? I mean, the game is just fundamentally wrong, fundamentally broken, and there's nothing here that actually stands out that's worth it. And do you know what? I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of people are actually talking about Concord and saying how much it's failed. And the one thing that stands out more than anything right now is the amount of people that are actually trying to defend it. Now, I do feel for the developers. They've been working on this for 8 years. That means they would have worked on this around the time Overwatch released. And they would have been seeing the stuff in Overwatch that actually worked, right? They're looking at the Overwatch characters 4 years down the line and say, right, people really do like these characters. People are proper simping for these characters. So what we're going to do is go and make the ugliest looking characters ever, the worst looking characters ever, and put them in a game in hopes that people will actually like it because we are being socially acceptable. Now, that whole go woke, go broke is only going to be blamed so far. I don't actually believe that fundamentally that is the root of the problem, because everything else in the game is actually part of the problem. The cosmetics are low effort. The maps are bland and boring. The actual gunplay is good, but in terms of balancing, it's awful. The dialogue that they constantly spout is awful. I did like the cutscenes, though. The cutscenes were pretty good. I'll give them that. And I do like the lore aspect of the game as well. That lore section that provides you ample of information, really nice touch. Honestly, I think they spent more time on the lore section than they did on the actual game. But the game has been in development for 8 years. And you're telling me that in that 8 years you didn't do any betas or alphas or pre-alpha tests to just gauge people's perceptions, and you just did this internally, listening to each other's inner thoughts of what they want to see, thinking nothing, everything that they want is what everyone else is going to want. There's a reason Korean games at the moment are booming, right? People want that sort of visual fidelity. People want to look at something nice. Just look at, Star Wars. You're seeing a lot of stuff coming out now with the main character's face, which admittedly in some of the shots are looking horrendously bad. Almost like Mike Tyson took a round at her face. I don't understand why this is the case. But in the end, the game is getting absolutely slaughtered. And let's go through that, because there's quite a bit here that we can go through. But it's really bad for Concord right now, and it is a monumental flop. And I genuinely don't see any way out for them. Now, if you're looking at this over here, you can clearly see that Concord apparently has lost over 60% of its players already. That is awful. And as you know, obviously when a game comes out new, it's going to lose its player base. You're going to get that massive spike, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be awesome, and then it's going to drop down with some people not liking it and whatnot, and then eventually you're going to be left with the middle crowd. But when you've got 113 people playing this at the moment, that's where it starts to get a little bit, it's dead on arrival. And, you can clearly see that there's just no coming back for this. A lot of the media, a lot of the PlayStation fans were mocking games like Hellblade and saying that how Hellblade 2 was bad, it didn't really sell well, and it actually turned a profit. It actually was successful. Other games like Starfield has 15,000 players playing it right now. It's doing great. But 113, that is dead on arrival. There's no saving this game. And honestly, I think they would do much better in pulling the plug, and I hope Sony can give these developers a better chance, because these are some talented people that have been around the industry for a long time. But for 8 years, for you to come out with this sort of thing is crazy. But the biggest shock for me is how the media is rallying around them and trying to protect and defend and save it. They wouldn't do this for anything else. We never saw them with, Redfall doing this or Starfield. They were panning those games like crazy. But because it's a PlayStation game, it's all over the place right now. But then you've got developers like this, right? He's actually a developer of the game. And people have been giving feedback, and he's saying, "Pay me $8 to unhide your tweet." Like, they cannot take criticism. This sort of thing is just going to get people more against you. I mean, I can't imagine this person was allowed to tweet again after this situation, but this is just bad, right? But you look at this, the gaming media is trying their best to save PlayStation, Concord. You've got Level Up, you got 3D Jugos, IGN, Kotaku. It's bad, and they are genuinely trying. Even the wording, their messaging is just different. Just look at this right here, right? Just look at this right here. More people are playing 2017's Prey than this year's Redfall on Steam, and the latter's player count fell all the way to 2 players last Sunday. Sounds like Redfall was doomed from the start. And then PC Gamer, when it comes to a PlayStation game, the eagerness to grave dance on unpopular games has become a bad habit. Literally what they were doing, right? The hypocrisy is there for everyone to see. You got this one over here, game journalists, and it's crazy. They're all rallying around. Even, I'm seeing so many people saying, "Oh, I'm jumping into Concord tonight. Come and join me," and all this. But where was all this for other games? Why is it only when it comes to PlayStation games? Of course, you got Nicola out here proving my point yet again, even though he thinks this is a win. This is not the win that he was thinking it would be. Sony's live service shooter Concord debuts to a tragic 697 concurrent players on Steam. Now, if this was an Xbox game, that would be Xbox's live service shooter Concord launches to a disastrous 697 concurrent player on Steam. That's the tone of language that would be used for Xbox. But for PlayStation, it's tragic. PlayStation's Concord did not breach 700 players. Can you see the wording? It's so less destructive. Obviously, people are focusing on the one here talking about Gollum. Oh dear. Concord's launch numbers are even worse than 2023's disastrous Gollum. That's the one people are focusing on. But all of these other ones that are sugarcoating the whole thing, Sony's new live service titled Concord is having a rough launch. This would be a nightmare launch, a disastrous launch, a failed, waste of time launch. It's clear that the media is doing their best to soften the blow to get people to jump in as much as possible to try and save the game. But where were they when other games from Xbox were doing this? Nowhere to be found. All they were doing is releasing article after article after article, hitting them down. And of course, we've got Tom Warren over here. Even the worst game of 2023 had more Steam players on its release day than Concord. And that's crazy. Gollum had more players playing it. Now, as you all know, I've actually streamed Gollum on my YouTube channel. For you guys, it was an amazing game. My 3090 was maxing out on that. What an experience. But Concord just is not a good game. It's not. I gave it a 6 out of 10 in my review because there's certain elements there that are okay. I wouldn't give a game in that current state anything below starting point 2 or 3, really, because at the end of the day, it's not a cyberpunk broken game. So I believe that there should be a minimum threshold of where it should start. I like the gunplay. I think that was actually pretty good. So there you go. I actually gave 2 points for that. Then you've got the actual lore section, which I thought was also really damn good, and I gave an extra point for that. But everything else around it just failed, and it just really bemuses me as to why no one at any point turned around and said, hey guys, maybe we need to rein this in a little bit because these are not going to sell. Read the damn room. But it looks like there was literally no management here. The development team was just allowed to run free. I mean, just look at the characters. They just look so bad. I'm starting to get genuinely upset about Concord's character designs. If this was a small indie game, I'd chalk it to the disagreement of style. This is a huge game that spent a decade in the oven, and the end result is characters that look like this. I mean, they look awful. None of them are inspired. It's got nothing to do with, color or anything. They just don't look appealing at all. I mean, just compare it to this, right? Would you rather be using these characters? Or would you rather be using these characters? There's a reason why there's a lot of people simping after these characters as opposed to these ones. Right? Look, regardless of how people want to look at it, sex sells. It just does. If you're looking at other games out there, that have an attractive character, an attractive lead, it helps the game sell. It's just a thing. And these are not helping. I just don't understand who in their right mind thought that this would be a good, acceptable design. I mean, I get you want to go diverse and stuff, but the game is just bad. And now you've got stuff like this popping all over the place. It's just hilarious. And, it's literally becoming a meme. I mean, at the moment, the only people that I see actually defending this game are actual, influencers, people that are on social media or influencers that are content creators that are pro PlayStation, that do not want to let this down. And literally, this is them in a nutshell.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
And that ain't a good name, by the way. I mean, dude ain't even prepared to show his face because he's playing Concord. That ain't a good name that you're trying to make for yourself. Even the cosmetics are so low effort. There is nothing redeeming about this game. Nothing at all. It's just bad. Even the game modes. Who thought that not having like King of the Hill or separating Team Deathmatch with Kill Confirmed is a bad thing? It wouldn't be a good thing. You got this dude over here who I showed in my stream last night. He's basically telling all of those crap players and that's how he's referring to them, by the way, bad players that can't play Call of Duties and stuff. He's asking them to come over because Concord has a place for bad players. I'm not joking. He's literally said that. I'll leave a link in the description below. You've got, Yimness over here trying to compare an open beta number where people are going to naturally jump in and try the game. Only at 2,000, it didn't even break what Hellblade did on launch, and people are saying that failed, even though it made a profit. It's just sad. It's just sad, right? It is just sad. But one thing that is clear is that losing 60% of your player base already when you didn't have a player base, it's taking 8 minutes now, up to 8 minutes to play. I remember when I was playing this on early access, it was taking up to 2 minutes, maybe sometimes more. And in my review, I made that comment and people were complaining at me saying, it's just early access. Well, now that it's actually out, it's taking 4 times the length to actually get into a game. What are you going to say now? The game is just not right. And I feel for the developers. I genuinely do, because these are some talented people out there. But how on earth they managed to release a game in this condition after 8 years is unfathomable. Concord is just a massive flop, and it will go down as one of the, biggest missteps Sony has ever done. And that's just it. It's a shame. It's really a shame. But, I don't want developers and, studios to be shut down or developers to lose their jobs, but I genuinely do fear for them because everyone is trigger happy right now. And if you look at Suicide Squad, they lost $200 million on Suicide Squad. That's a massive loss. And apparently rumors are that Concord has cost roughly about the same. So this is a massive cost sink for Sony. And just think that they pushed this in place of Factions and Spider-Man Online. That's the part that hurts the most. You had Spider-Man Online, Factions 2, Twisted Metal, and instead you have this in play. There's really nothing here that I can really say. The game just isn't that good. It's just not. I've played it for about maybe 10 hours between the beta and the official release, and I can tell you that, at least from the beta, there wasn't much difference. In fact, the game, felt slower. The time to kill felt slower. The one-to-one combat was just bad. In fact, if you try to 2-to-1 someone, it ain't gonna go in your favor. There's no hero moments in a hero shooter. That's there's no hero moments. And when you got games like Marvel Rivals coming out soon that actually does provide those hero moments, and it's free to play, and you're trying to charge for this slop, that's where the problem is. And even if they now turn around and say, like Foam Stars are doing, and going free to play, there's a thing called too little too late. And I think they've burned the bridges enough. I think people would have been a lot more tolerant if this game came out free to play. But the fact that you had to pay £35 for it sets a standard, sets a bar. And Helldivers 2 set that bar at £35. And you coming out with this, where it misses almost on every single point, it's just not it. And you know what? It's amazing to see how much the media is rallying around this to protect it. But in the end, the game is just a flop. It's a disaster. I'm sorry to say, but it was just a waste of time. And hopefully they'll get another chance to bounce back and release something better, release something new. And hopefully with better looking characters, because those characters absolutely weren't it. I know people are going to say, well, what do you want the characters to look pretty? It attracts the consumer. It's one of the things that gets someone to turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to try this out because they look damn good. It's just one of those things. It's human nature. But anyway, I've rambled enough. Rest in peace, Concord. I do not see you coming back from this. I just don't. And now I'm seeing content creators saying, this game is amazing, this game is good, this game is brilliant, this game is this, and this game is that. And you know what? The next thing they do, I've seen in so many tweets, they're turning around to Josh Hamrick and asking him for a free copy of the game because they don't have it yet. How can you be promoting a game, praising a game, saying it's amazing when you haven't even bothered to buy it? I mean, the game isn't even, they're promoting it and the game isn't even good enough for them to spend their money to buy it. They're asking for free copies so they can promote the game. I think that pretty much says it all, right? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Rest in peace, Concord. And media, it was a valiant effort. It was a truly, truly valiant effort that you tried to save this game. It looks like it's not going to work this time. But hey, at least those Sony checks cleared, right? Remain legend.